and welcome back to Basketball Edition number 31. Today we're joined by Steve Summers from the 2024 New Zealand Card Collectors Show in Upper Hutt that is coming soon. Steve is going to go through and do a bit of a promo and talk about the show there that is coming and what you can expect from it. And myself and Phil, welcome back to Basketball Edition again, and we'll be firing through some questions to you, Steve. So welcome aboard, buddy.
Glad to be here. Yeah, and great opportunity to talk about the show.
Cool, mate. We're excited for it. Unfortunately, I won't be able to fly down to Wellington that week, but I think Phil is going to be very keen to attend with his cards. We've been collecting really, really hard out this year, and we've started off being kids initially in the basketball card hobby, and now we've just grown into grown men with money, and we can spend it on our hobby that we love and share it with our kids sometimes if they ask us the right questions at the right time.
Trying to teach my 2-year-old that you're not supposed to bend the cards. That's been quite the journey. So he gets only gets base, of course. And if I give it to him in a penny sleeve, he's like, "Dad, take it out." So he doesn't understand the concept of protecting it, but we'll get there. You got to start them young.
So, Steve, when and where is the 2024 New Zealand Card Collector Show taking place, and what can attendees expect from this year's event?
Yeah, so it's on Sunday the 26th, open to the public from 10 to 3. Perhaps if I give you a little bit of a backstory on how we've actually got to the New Zealand Card Show, just so everybody kind of understands, how we got to this really cool point. The main sponsors of the show is the New Zealand Card Club, and that club's been going since 1975. And what tended to happen every year is that because it's a club, you have this kind of formal element to it. And you used to have a thing called an AGM. And so, you'd elect your president, your committee, all those kind of things. But at the same time, it was a great chance for a lot of collectors to get together for the day and, buy, sell, swap cards. And so they used to do this every year for, literally decades. But over the recent years, as you know, due to COVID, the card collecting has just absolutely boomed. And so due to a few reasons, back in 2022, I was given the opportunity to run the event for the card club here in the Wellington region. And because I'd seen what had taken place overseas, particularly if you look at the national in America, you look at like the London Card Show, even some the kind of smaller kind of shows in Australia, and particularly the crowds that they were getting and what they were offering for those kind of events, I thought there was kind of a perfect opportunity, if I was going to do it, to actually turn it more into an outward-facing show for the public. And so get, members, non-members, everybody along to actually really enjoy cards, no matter what you collect. The first one started off at Johnsonville in 22. I didn't have that much time advertising. Previously, the Card Club had never really done social media, so the idea of Facebook and other forms of social media just wasn't there. So I kind of kicked that off. And we ended up with 39 tables. Pretty good start, I only had a few months to kind of sort it. And then in 2023, we had the opportunity for a larger venue and sharing it with kind of a Wellington general kind of collector club. They'd have something every year, and they invited us along. So fast forward to this year, we're now at 138 tables. We take up the entire hall. It's everything in that hall is to do with card collecting. We've essentially sold out space. I mean, I've tried to configure to see if we can get more people in it, but there's always that trade-off between space and actually the public can move around and check out tables. What I've done now is just, if anybody contacts me, I've put them on a waiting list. So, we could actually end up, if I had full space available, get to 150, but, that's a problem for 2025. So 2024, 138 tables, and just a really wide selection. One of the things we're really kind of conscious of is that it's a show for all card collectors. So it doesn't matter whether you're sports cards, trading cards, gaming cards, old vintage cards, cigarette cards, those kind of things. There's something for everyone at the show. And that's something that we've really pushed over the last 2 to 3 years. It's a show for everyone because the card collector community, as we all know, is huge and it's getting bigger. And so it's great to have them all under one roof and everybody can kind of appreciate everyone else's kind of elements to the hobby.
Got a bit of a two-parter for you following on there, Steve. What's an admission cost? And second to that, the 138 tables that are there, what's the idea? Do people come along, check out what people have, and they swap, or do they sell? Like, what's the general idea of the people that are actually have a table there versus the public that are streaming in?
Yep. So for your viewers, good news, it's free.
Brilliant.
Yep, yep. Although, I mean, it's always a winner. But I think particularly as it grows over time, and we're quite conscious of adding more and more elements to the show, there might be a cost. But what we're thinking, kind of toying with the idea next year, it might be something like a gold coin donation. It won't be anything significant. And even we know that when we're running the show this year, in one of the other rooms, there's a breast cancer event going on. So we're going to have like a donation thing. So we might tie in something, some of that money might go to a charity next year, something like that, kind of giving back to the community. That's kind of our thinking. In terms of the show and the tables, it's very much about buy, sell, trade. So if I look at the makeup of the vendors, so it's about 51, 52 vendors in total. There's a bunch of those that are businesses, either bricks and mortar or online. And there's quite a few in the Wellington region. But having said that, there's quite a few who are actually turning up from other parts of the country as well. Like a classic one is Card Crazy.
I was going to ask if they were going to be there.
Yeah, they're going to be there. They're great. Look, they've pitched in a whole lot of sponsorship money for prizes and things like that, which has been really, really cool. It would be good to make sure that most of the shops that sell cards, no matter what they are, particularly in the Wellington region, are represented. So they're along, so they'll have all their, table stuff. But the other element that we're really keen on is to get that collector to get a table. Because I think, if we're all collecting long enough, before you know it, you've got 5,000 count boxes of spare cards, and you go, what do I do with them all?
Yeah.
I wouldn't know anyone like that, Steve. There's someone who's a host on the show who might have close to 10,000 cards. I don't know who they are, but
yeah, I admitted to somebody else a little while ago, I think my spares are probably at 40, 50,000. It's just a crazy number of cards. And so you think, well, do you put them on TradeMe? Do you do Facebook? What do you do with them? And so we've really encouraged collectors to say, hey, look, a table is $20. 1.8 meter table is $20. It's good value, because the whole show, it's not about making a profit. It's about, the whole card collecting community. And so here's a chance for them to come along, put out the cards, make some money, make some contacts, have a bit of time, hopefully, to look around themselves, and do a bit of buying, do a bit of trading. So it's very much around that kind of buy, sell, trade element to it. Having said that, I think in the future, we'll probably try to introduce a few more elements, perhaps, and whether that's speakers or whether that's more kind of prizes, or, we looked at perhaps, running some games, like Magic or Pokémon. But the biggest issue we had probably is space, coming back to that, because we do have a public trading space up on the stage of about, 7, 8 tables. And we had that last year. That went really well because, we're also kind of conscious of that family side of things. We want to get kids to turn up and they've just got their one folder of cards, and they want to show it to other people, or they want to do a little bit of trading. And we took heaps of photos last year of kids just trading just up there. And some were quite shy about it. Some just, for whatever reason, they want to be part of it, but they're not too sure who to approach, who to talk to. And then when they got into it, they loved it. They really enjoyed it. And we're all kids. We're kids of all ages, right? We can talk to a 15-year-old, a 10-year-old about cards. We just have a great time. And so that was kind of a key part to it. And so I guess the only thing with, if you think 138 tables, it's open from 10 to 3, man, you have to kind of prioritize where you go, because there's no way you can actually check out all the tables, because there's just so many cards available.
You group them like sports and, Pokemon, or are they just spread out?
Generally, yeah. I try and, because what we've got is tables around the edge of the hall. A lot of that is based on needing power for payment and all that kind of stuff. Then we have 5 table islands, and each one's got, I think, 16 tables. I try and group them as best I can. It just depends on, it's a little bit like Jenga, kind of fitting everybody, and how does it kind of work, because some have 2 tables, some have 3 tables, some just have 1 table. So making sure, but there's a general theme for each table island that people can go, okay, Pokemon, it might be like gaming. Then another one might be more vintage cards. Another one, here's mainly sports, with some sports memorabilia and kind of other things kind of thrown in as well.
Cool. And do you have any guest speakers coming along this year, Steve? Or is that, you said there, that's the plan for the future? Or do you have any at the moment?
Yeah, more the future. And these are the kind of good problems, so to speak, because you're growing it and you think, what else can we do? Does it go from 1 to 2 days? Do we make it longer? Is it more 9 to 4? If we do have a speaker, what will they be speaking about? What would be kind of popular to get more people in? It's just those kind of things. So, for instance, PCG, the grading guys, they're coming along this year, and so they're going to, talk about. I think he's going to be bringing some of the technology along to actually show how they do the grading. Just really interesting stuff. So that's where we're kind of growing it. Our core thing is about buying and selling, about adding to your collection or selling off some of your collection so you can just go buy more cards. The idea is that there's kind of other things over time that we're looking at introducing. It depends on space and where we go. And if we manage to find a hall that's double the space, we go, wow, it's actually going to give us a whole bunch of options in terms of other things that we could do that we hadn't been able to do before.
You talked about Card Crazy coming along, and they've put money towards sponsorship money towards giveaways and that sort of thing. So can you give us an idea of if there's going to be any exclusive releases? Do any of the vendors sort of save up some certain products that they want to do, that they want to release at the show, and as you said before, the giveaways and prizes and that sort of thing, and how people can get involved?
Yep. So we've very much let it up to the businesses themselves to obviously decide what they do, and closer to the time we'll have a little bit more information about that. So kind of see the Facebook page, and we'll be announcing things as they go along. But at PCG, they're going to do some option for free grading, so a competition around free grading. To try it out. One of the interesting things is because if you look at obviously rugby card collecting here in New Zealand is huge. And kind of the guru of worldwide rugby cards, Justin McCullough, fingers crossed, hopefully, be launching his New Zealand rugby card book at the show. First opportunity to get a copy of that. It's with the printers at the moment. Fingers crossed. He's been burning the midnight oil to get it all ready. So it'd be it's just one of those things where there was an opportunity for a book launch at a show, make it a bit more of a big deal because he's done a hell of a lot of work into it. So that'll be quite cool. And in terms of kind of giveaways and cards, nothing that I know of as yet, but I think, again, that's one of the things where I think over time, like the idea of a special card for the show, that's limited edition to 50, 100, whatever it might be. That's, again, something that we might look at. We might say to people, look, that's actually what, you pay a gold coin donation into the show. That's what some of your money could go towards. The first 100 people who are in, they get one of those cards. That kind of thing. So,
that'd be cool.
And we're, we see what happens overseas, and particularly like the national. I mean, I watch, when the national comes out, all those YouTube channels that do the walkarounds and talk about day 1, day 2, day 3. I watch all of them. I love it. Yeah, and I know that we're never going to get to that scale because that's just, there's a natural limit just for the size of our country. But it's
dream big, Steve.
Yeah, dream big.
Dream
I know of a hot new podcast that could come along at some point and do a live stream. Imagine that.
Exactly. It would be the stuff that they do over there is just, we could, there's elements of it we could definitely have a go at here, to get that kind of experience. I think would be really cool.
Why not?
Yeah, why not?
I know there's that Grand National one, but then there's also Fanatic Fest that's coming the month after, and that's got like Tom Brady, and I think LeBron James is making an appearance just casually. So like for the future of the New Zealand Card Collectors Show, because how many people do you expect coming through the doors? It's going to get bigger and bigger and better because more and more people are going to get into these hobbies, just because they're so much fun. It's a great way to meet people and make friends.
Yeah, that's right. Because it's free to get in, we've never had an exact count in terms of number of people have come through. But last year it was many, many, many hundreds. Whether we cracked 1,000, I don't know. I had my head down, doing a whole bunch of stuff during the day, didn't really get the opportunity to kind of look and see roughly how many people are there. But we're going to try and have a couple of counters this year, some volunteers through the card club, just to give it a bit of an idea. But we know through social media, like the event page, it's significantly up the number of people who've got going or interested, and just kind of excuse the pun, the vibe that's kind of taking place. And we've advertised it a lot more, so it's more in the kind of public arena. And the other thing too is going back to an earlier comment that we're conscious that we've got enough space for people to move around, because I think that's one of the things where you can try and load in tables. But if you have the party and everybody turns up, you can really move around. And part of the feedback that we got last year was that it would be cool to have a bunch of chairs actually in front of a lot of the tables, because if you're there from 10 to 3, and you're looking at a whole lot of cards, man, your neck just drives you insane after a couple of hours. You know, you kind of rigor mortis kind of sets in, and you're going through all these cards and these boxes, and they valued the idea of having chairs. So things like that, a good problem to have if we get a lot of people at the event. That'd be really cool.
Hard to really ask the question, you've touched on it, but just around what sets this collector show apart from others in the world, it definitely sounds like you're on the come up. So there's lots of room for improvement, and based on what Jimmy and I have noticed since we've entered the hobby, and as you've talked about as well, it's a growing community. So is there anything in particular that sets you apart, or would you have some really like neat ideas that you've got locked in, so to speak, for next year?
Yeah, I think it's been one of those kind of natural progression journeys. What I mentioned earlier about kind of growing it. I guess because it's mainly sponsored by the New Zealand Card Club, we're really about that kind of community side of cards, particularly bringing in families, making it kid friendly, and and having a chance for not only collectors to get to talk to each other, but also even vendors, because sometimes some of them are wholesalers, some of them are retailers, getting a chance to actually network and kind of build those relationships. So what we're doing like the night before is we're having drinks at a Brewtown. So there's a chance just for in a relaxed atmosphere, come along, have a beer, just chat to other card collectors, those kind of things that we're kind of thinking about how can we make a weekend of it? Because the card show's on the Sunday, but a lot of people actually flying in like Friday night or Saturday morning. How can we kind of make it a weekend of it? And that comes down to, is it eventually becomes 2 days, or is there something that's kind of social and fun that we can do on the Saturday? And so having that drinks is kind of a starting step towards that. And I think, as I said before, that we can kind of learn a lot from what's happening overseas, but you've got to be careful. And this sounds a little bit weird, that you get so professional in the show that you don't want to show where people simply see the stuff that they know and walk around really quickly. You need the show where there's elements to it where it makes it sticky for people. Because one of the things we found last year is that most of them were there from 10 to 3, with the 90 tables, that they actually stuck around. And so you've got to make sure that you have that good balance of different types of tables, different types of people, promoting stuff, the ability to have a conversation with somebody, and kind of that, that get kind of Kiwi social kind of way of doing things, I think is really important.
What do you collect, Steve? And what are you most like wanting to see there at the card show yourself for your own personal collections?
Yeah. So I'm one of those guys who've actually collected pretty much right through my life. So I never took a break. So my big collecting passion is all New Zealand issued cards. So that can be sports cards, trading cards, stickers, from the cereal cards right through the bubblegum cards, you remember. Anything that was issued by a New Zealand company is what I collect. And I have a particular interest in sports cards. So regional sports cards, so, Taranaki might have put out a set of cards for their rugby players. I'll collect that. Hurricanes, Canterbury, and it could be netball, it could be any sport. I'm kind of on a forever hunt. I'm trying to find those cards. Some are easier to find than others. Some are just around for a short time and they're really hard to find. And within sports, obviously, I love collecting the rugby cards, but also love collecting cricket cards. So I actually ended up doing a book on New Zealand cricket cards, and I've actually just a complete plug, shameless plug here, put out that book, a few years ago. And that basically lists all New Zealand issued cricket cards. And now what I've, because, when you're collecting, you just keep going. What I now look for is all the overseas cricket cards that show New Zealand players. And obviously a lot of those are in Australia, England, India, South Africa. eBay's my friend at the moment, buying a lot of those and really getting into it. So yeah, all types of New Zealand issued cards. And in terms of the show, so because I collect so many cards, my wants list is something ridiculous, like 45 pages in a Word document. A lot of the stuff is the weird and wacky that you've probably never heard of, yet I want. And a lot of it really old, like turn of the century kind of stuff as well. So I'm kind of at the stage, because I've been collecting for so many years, that if I get any card, I'm happy, really. Just to say, yep, there's another one. Funnily enough, even the other day, I was trying to complete the Tap and Play 2019 rugby foil parallel set. and there were 3 foil cards I just could not find for love or money for a good year and a half, and finally came across one guy who had all 3. So it's weird how that goes sometimes. So that's one ticked off. So yeah, and I guess the other thing with the show is because I'm running around as one of the co-organizers. If I have a little bit of time to look at a few tables, then that's a win. But my main focus is really to make sure that the vendors and the public are just having a really good time.
I got sort of multiple questions. Following on from some of your comments, you talked about eBay there. This is sort of a world that I've sort of started to dip my toes in recently. Shipping being just astronomical. Do you use a third party like Ship My Cards or some of those other outfits, or do you kind of not everything's based in America, so you might not get stung with those really high prices?
Yeah, I've been quite lucky. A lot of the cards that I've been interested in have typically, so in Australia, a lot of them. So I've got a mate over there who's actually be flying. He's a Kiwi living in Australia. He'll be flying to the card show. So I just get it sent to him. So when he comes over, I just get those parcels. So it's domestic.
So
the UK guys are pretty good. There's been a couple of times where I've just been charged a ridiculous amount, £27 for a card. And I've just contacted them saying, look, I'm after this card, but £27, I'm happy to take the risk. And they've actually changed their shipping to help, which has been really good. So I haven't been stung too much, but to your point, yeah, there's a few cards that I would like to get, but a lot of the cards I'm getting are, maybe under 10 US, and I'm not paying ridiculous 30, 40 US on top of that to get the card. It's just, there's just no way I'm going to do it. I'm happy to wait. If somebody else sells it at a reasonable price, then I'll grab it then. It's always a patience game. I've been at it for decades, so the cards always come up again and again. So
hold your book up and read the title out so that the viewers and listeners can actually hear it.
Yep, cool. It's New Zealand issued cricket cards and stickers 2024 to 2020. It's actually available on a Trade Me, but feel free to contact me directly at nz4summers, and that's the number 4, nz4summers at gmail.com, and I can do a bit cheaper for you. So I sell them at a private deal for $37.50. I've only got, I only printed 100. I've only got about 6 or 7 left. And you never know, somebody will go at the card show. Who knows?
Yeah.
So get in quick.
Yeah, been some classic moments in New Zealand cricket. I'm a former, pub cricketer, so to speak. And I've got this that you might remember, Steve. Now, I spent years trying to find this book, and I finally found it. Got it for $2 at a garage sale. Completed.
Yeah.
Stoked. I imagine you have that one.
Yeah.
What is it, Jimmy?
Yeah. In fact, I've taken that to the next level, where I even collect, because you remember, like you used to open them up, and there used to be 2 cards. Yep.
Yeah.
Well, there were variations in terms of what numbers on each card, in terms of where they were, the pairings of them. And so in my book has all the pairings, and I've collected all the pairings that you can have as well. So and remember the prize cards? There were 3 prize cards, something like a Coke, a Moro bar, and a chippy packet, I think.
Yeah.
So I've collected those as well, because most people handed them in. I want my Coke, so they gave them into the garage, and so they're harder to find. So that's kind of the level I've taken it. But I thought, just for a bit of interest, here's something that unfortunately was not. They were going to issue it in New Zealand, but it never ended up actually taking place. So this is the promo card. Sorry for the glare, guys. By Futura, it was going to be a New Zealand card set that came out, and so they put this promo card out saying it was kind of, I think it was going to come out in November 1996, and it never happened. So that is the only thing you can actually find from that set.
That's neat, and you own it.
Yeah, and there was, I don't know how many of these promo cards are in existence. They're not super rare. That you can get them from time to time, but that was the only thing that they did, was just that large promo card for it, saying it was going to be issued, and just nothing happened. One of those great disappointments. Looking forward to it. No. And I thought, just as another thing, just for a bit of fun, because I know you mentioned about like 90s cricket cards. Do you guys go to many games in the 90s? In terms of cricket competitions?
I went to a lot at Seddon Park in Hamilton. I was one of the little kids on the sideline by the boundary rope. Yeah, before the picket fence got installed. So I was one of those.
Nice, because I'm a Medal 2 boy originally, and so used to go down to the Basin Reserve and watch the ODIs and stuff. But during the 90s, Powerade actually sponsored the Black Caps, and you could just walk around and there would be this Powerade stall, and you could grab these large player cricket cards.
Yeah, it's a good old Chris Keynes.
Yeah,
Awesome.
good
And
Nick.
Nathan Astle.
Nathan Astle. And I'll show you this one. Well, I'll show you two, because they're kind of, when you think about it, a little bit in sync. So you've got here Danny Morrison.
Love Danny Morrison in the 90s.
Yeah.
And there's the group with the grey and the white.
Yeah, the
And
young
then they had-
guns.
but speaking of Danny Morrison, then they had the duck mascot photo card as well.
And they used to have the shell hit the sign competition. Do you remember that? If they hit the sign, someone could win 10 grand cash. That was the whole thing from back in the day in the Shell Cup.
Yep.
Remember that? Wow. Yeah.
So it's amazing that you go to those things, and there's there'd be probably 100, at least 100 of each card just sitting there, and you could grab them as kids. But now try to find them. Most of them get chucked out. And I always talk about the survival rate of a lot of sports cards. And this is not here around the world, regional cards. I reckon the survival rate is incredibly low. It's probably 1 or 2 out of every 100 survive for a year, because most kids, they lose interest. Mum and dad comes through and they clear out their room. They just get thrown out. So you kind of have to grab them where you can.
Is there a secondary market? Is that a part of it as well, where people don't see it as having any value, so they're kind of like, no point?
I think for kids today it's changed, but when we were kids, it was just fun. Yeah. So we just have something. These kind of larger cards we'd pin up on our walls. We might get them signed if we got near a player, but beyond that, it was kind of like a kind of time in life, stage of life kind of thing, where that was cool. But then you moved on to cars or girls or whatever you do, and so it was kind of, and it's only like kind of people like us that end up saying, hey, look, it's important kind of to keep some of the stuff. It's actually quite cool. So yeah, I mean, I think the kids now, they kind of get it, and you see that in terms of the top loaders and the penny sleeves, all those kind of things. But back then we never had much like that. We had the Ultra Pro pages. You had some penny sleeves going on. The card crazy of the 1990s was trying to encourage that, but a lot of it didn't survive. The only ones that really, particularly the oddball stuff like that, the things that did survive a lot more were more the trading cards, because you could put them in pages, put them in an album, and so the survival rate. So the card crazy cricketers of the 90s set, there's a lot of those around, and the top one as well. Kids put them in pages, looked after them. That's why you can still find the inserts. But this kind of oddball, regional, or just point in time kind of issues, yeah, not too many survived, unfortunately. Just as an aside, give you a good example is the gold cards that come with the wheat bix, the rugby gold cards. So the Lomu one, they produced 500 of those. We reckon there's less than 10 that have survived in total. And even the McCaw and Carter ones, they printed 5,000. And so we've just been keeping tabs just on TradeMe how many pop up, because they're all individually numbered. So it just gives you just a rough idea, and then you add a little bit of GST onto it. But again, you're probably looking at maybe 150 or 5,000, because most people don't check their wheat bix packets. The average Joe just does it. They just have the wheat bix and they throw the box out, and so they don't realise that there's actually a card with quite a bit of money at the bottom.
Well, I've got a few of the more recent rugby wheat bix cards. I'd be more than happy to give you, Steve, if that was something that you're after. It's that collector in me. I even on the back of the wheat bix packet, I've got the little box that you can put them in if you cut it out of the cardboard, and then you can sellotape it together. So I've done that. Nice. I made the little box and sellotaped it and put it on. I put them all in there. I've just kind of got them sitting in a drawer, and trying to think of who I could give them to that's interested in rugby. I'm a rugby league guy, so I'm not even really sure why I'm collecting them. But I guess it's a collector's a collector, right? I can't bring myself to throw them out. I'm like, someone's going to want this.
Yeah. And that's the adage that I always go in with that stuff. I've actually got some rugby cards as well here, and you always go with the adage, someone will want them.
Yep.
I think that's a great,
absolutely.
great sentiment. Yeah.
I think, and kudos to Sanitarium as well. I mean, they started that All Black series, I think it was about 98, where they started to issue rugby cards, and they've been going ever since. And I think that's helped a whole, probably 2 probably getting 3 generations of Kiwi kids, the idea of that regularity of collecting cards. What's the new All Black set that's going to come out? They're going to collect. And now you're getting guys who are in their 20s, 30s, whatever, that are going, yeah, I remember those cards. Well, those from the late 90s. I'd love to get a set of those. And just brings up memories and gets them back into the hobby, because that's what you need. I've always said that, cards are one of the few things in life solely meant to be collected. There's very few things in life that are actually just about collecting, and cards is one of them. And it's really cool just to, for people to have those memories, and because of social media and because of the internet, the ability to look online, get the cards that they want, and that kind of kicks it off again for them, later down the track when they've got a bit more money and they don't have all the responsibilities as much as they do when they're younger.
I used to really wind my dad up. I'd pull the whole packet of Weet-Bix out to fish the cards out and then put them in, and of course you'd crush half the packet in the process. It used to really rush them up.
And the other thing too is actually keeping the packet. Well, most people just throw out the packet. You actually keep the packet. So I've got all the packets right through. And again, that's kind of a slice of life, actually showing players, because often there'd be players on the packets. And so, there's this kind of extra element to card collecting sometimes. If you go, well, I'm going to keep the wrapper, like as kids, we threw out all the wrappers, right? The wrappers are nothing. And some of those wrappers are really hard to find now. And the same with the display boxes that the gum cards came in, and the packets, all those kind of things are just kind of part of that story of the cards. And so, I'm just kind of conscious of keeping all those things, that's why my room's so packed.
I've got a couple of Funkos actually. One of my here, it's Ravager Thanos, and I haven't taken him out of his packet because I can't bring myself to doing it. As well as up behind me, I've got a few exclusive Funkos in their packets still. I can't bring myself to take them out.
You'll see behind me, I've got a whole kind of display of and down the bottom of a lot of All Blacks kind of stuff that was kind of promotional, meant for kids, or things I remember as a child. So you'll see the Celtics board that a lot of the small figures were meant to go on, and then the other one there, the interchangeables, was a display board that they would have had at the Celtic station, and some of the tins and bits and pieces. That's what I love, is that there's plenty of other avenues that you can, little rabbit holes you can go down in terms of that kind of card collecting journey.
Well, I've got a whole lot. I was just looking there, a big stack for you.
Nice. I'll never say no.
Yeah.
At the very least, I can then send them on to somebody else who might need them as well. So we all tend to help each other.
From 2019. So I saw there was I think there's a Christian Cullen hiding in there as well, special edition one. So very handy.
Very good.
Well, thank you very much for coming along, Steve. We'd love to get you back as well to come in and promo the next event as well over the year. That'd be really cool, because we're excited to see it come about, and then we're also excited to see where it goes from here into the future. So thank you very much for your time today, and thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks very much. I really appreciate it, guys.
Yeah, awesome. Cool. Look forward to meeting you, mate. I'm definitely going to make sure I pop out. I might have to bring one of the kids along, but I'll make it work.
Yeah, absolutely. Bring the kids along. Yeah. They should have fun time.
It's either a 2-year-old or a 1-month-old. So I might. I'm not sure how much fun they'll have, but maybe by osmosis.
That's right.